Wood was the lifeblood of Viking society. It built their ships, their homes and their tools, yet the harsh northern climate was relentless. Rain, snow and seasonal freeze-thaw cycles threatened to rot timbers in just a few years. Now, modern audiences may assume that centuries-old Viking ships and buildings survived purely by luck, but the truth is far more fascinating. Vikings employed a series of practical, highly effective techniques to preserve wood for decades, even centuries. Rediscovering these methods not only illuminates Viking ingenuity, but also offers practical lessons for anyone today working with timber, from survivalists to gardeners and carpenters. Vikings understood that water is wood's greatest enemy, and acted accordingly. The first secret to long-lasting wood lies in moisture management. Vikings observed that wood left in contact with soil or standing water would decay rapidly, while timber exposed to air but sheltered from constant wetting endured far longer. Archaeological studies of Viking ships, such as the Oseberg and Gokstad vessels, show that hull timbers were carefully selected and positioned to minimize water retention. They also avoided storing wood directly on the ground, often raising beams or planks on stones or racks to allow airflow underneath. You can apply this principle today. When storing lumber, even in your backyard, elevate it off the soil using blocks or pallets and cover it to protect from rain while leaving gaps for airflow. This simple adjustment alone can dramatically slow rot and maintain the wood's structural integrity over time, exactly as Vikings practiced centuries ago. Salt and tar were applied strategically to preserve timber naturally. Beyond placement, Vikings actively treated wood to resist decay. Historical records and chemical analyses indicate they used natural preservatives like pine tar, pitch and sometimes salt to extend timber life. Tar, boiled from pine, penetrated wood fibers and created a hydrophobic barrier, repelling water and inhibiting fungal growth. Salt was applied to poles and planks intended for long-term storage, drawing moisture out of the wood and discouraging rot. These substances were affordable, widely available, and remarkably effective. For modern applications, pine tar remains a viable, non-toxic preservative for outdoor wooden structures, tools, or garden beds. A thin coating applied to ends and exposed surfaces, combined with proper storage, can significantly extend timber longevity. Even a few tablespoons of coarse salt rubbed into freshly cut timber ends can reduce cracking and fungal attack. This demonstrates that ancient Viking wisdom has direct relevance to contemporary woodworking and outdoor projects. The Vikings selected timber with durability and structure in mind. Another overlooked aspect of Viking wood preservation was the selection of the right species and grain orientation. Oak, ash and pine were favoured for their natural strength and resistance to decay. Vikings also cut planks and beams so that the grain ran vertically when possible, allowing water to drain naturally and minimising saturation. Archaeological timbers reveal a clear preference for heartwood over sapwood, as the older, denser inner wood is less prone to rot. Gardeners, carpenters and DIY enthusiasts can replicate this by choosing naturally durable species for outdoor use and orienting boards so water drains away from surfaces and joints. When possible, keep heartwood exposed while protecting sapwood with natural coatings. This combination of species choice, grain orientation, and protective treatments mirrors Viking practices that allowed their ships and buildings to endure for centuries in harsh conditions. Drying and curing timber was a carefully timed process. Vikings did not rush timber use. They understood that freshly felled wood, or what they called green wood, is highly susceptible to decay. Historical accounts suggest that timbers were air-dried and stored for months or even years before construction, allowing the moisture content to stabilize. During drying, they would monitor cracks and twisted fibers, selecting only boards that would maintain their shape and integrity once installed. In modern practice, air-drying lumber in a well-ventilated covered area really does replicate this approach. It's best to avoid storing wood in sealed sheds where condensation can form and, rotate stacked boards occasionally to promote even drying. By exercising patience in timber preparation, you achieve stronger, more durable wood, just as Vikings did for their longboats and longhouses. Applying Viking techniques creates wood that lasts for decades. Combining proper storage, selective timber choice, protective coatings, and patient curing produces wood that far outlasts untreated lumber. Whether you're building garden structures, raised beds, or furniture, these historical lessons are, honestly, surprisingly practical. Layer boards off the soil, coat exposed ends with pine tar or boiled linseed oil, and allow natural drying and curing. The result is wood that resists rot, maintains structural integrity, and can endure seasonal exposure for decades, just as Viking ships braved ocean voyages for centuries. Even small applications in backyard projects demonstrate the effectiveness of these techniques. Treated fence posts last years longer, raised garden beds remain sturdy without replacement, and outdoor benches can withstand winter rains without splitting. Vikings didn't have chemical preservatives, but through observation, experimentation, and practical application, they perfected wood longevity using materials and methods accessible to anyone today. Vikings preserved wood through observation, preparation, and natural treatments. They kept timber dry, applied tar and salt, chose durable species-oriented grain for drainage, and allowed proper curing. These techniques enabled them to build ships, homes, and tools that endured harsh northern climates for centuries. Modern gardeners, survivalists, and woodworking enthusiasts can adopt the same principles to create durable, resilient structures from timber reconnecting with practical wisdom that stood the test of time. For more deep dives into historically proven techniques and practical applications, subscribe to Echoes of Valor and share this video with fellow history enthusiasts. Discover how Viking ingenuity can transform your woodworking and gardening projects and keep your wood alive for decades, just like theirs did.